Sir, thank you very much. Sir, I had the privilege of being nominated as one of the 4 special envoys that the Honorable Prime Minister deputed to the countries around Ukraine following the launch of military operations on 24th February, when it became necessary to escalate the evacuation of Indian students who were studying in the Ukraine. Sir, anyone who has even a nodding acquaintance with issues relating to foreign and security policy, and anyone who watches global hotspots will know that the determination that is required to be made when situations of tension are escalating and there's an exacerbation of tension, timing is of the essence. So let me start, sir, by providing a perspective based on facts personally, with which I am personally familiar, what the Honorable Member Shri N.K. Premchandran said, who was the lead speaker today. He made some excellent points. Both he and I, now I'm addressing the chair. So I address the chair and through the chair, Honorable Premchandran, the speaker, through the chair, through the institution of the chair. Sir, there were clear indications, and first of all, let me say, what the Honorable Member said and what other Honorable Members have said have signified a broad and unambiguous support for the government's evacuation efforts. There have been differences of nuance, and I would like to take the opportunity to comment on 1 or 2 of them. The very fact that our embassy, our resident mission in Kiev, Ukraine, decided to undertake a registration of all our students there in the month of January was a clear pointer in the direction of anxiety and the fact that we were preparing ourselves for an eventuality of the kind that unfolded in the aftermath of the military operations of 24th February. Sir, one honorable member sought to draw a distinction in the language which the government of India issued as part of its advisory and the language which some other countries issued. I believe a reference was made to the US advisory, a reference was made to the Australian and New Zealand advisory. Sir, I am a student of the English language, and when an advisory, sir, in any case, an advisory is by definition an advisory. You advise. You cannot direct. The government cannot direct private citizens who have gone of their own volition to leave a place. It's not an order. The advisory was unambiguous, sir. It said all non-essential. By all non-essential means except those whose continued stay there is necessary on account of a number of facts, which means our embassy couldn't have, our colleagues in the embassy would have to stay there. And they stayed right towards the end till they had to be relocated to another place. So I think, sir, the advisory issued on the 15th of February and the subsequent advisories issued, if I remember correctly, on the 20th and the 22nd of February, had the effect of 4,000 of our young friends leaving the Ukraine pursuant to those advisories. Now, let us, and I have some experience, sir, because I was there. Why did the rest not leave? Was it a choice that they exercised because they thought military operations would finally not take place? Or was there some consideration? And that is why a reference was made by one of the honorable members to student contractors, to the authorities in universities. Sir, I spoke to many of the 6,177 of my young friends who were evacuated from the Ukrainian border via Hungary. I spoke to them. And many of them had the same story, that they were being encouraged by the authorities of the educational institute which they were attending to say, things are going to be all right, things are going to be all right. Maybe, and I'm in this intervention going to stay totally clear of issues of, foreign and security policy. I want to confine myself to Operation Ganga. When these young students are advised, look, you've got some of you who are in the final year of medical education, you've only got 3 to 5 months left to complete your course, or some of you have got 1 year left. If you choose to leave, we may not be able to organize online classes, and it may result in your losing a year. That is the kind that young minds, that is the kind of talk young minds had to grapple with. And on the 15th, when we issued our first advisory, or on the 20th, till the military operations actually took place, it is a determination they had made. Now, what happens after the 24th February, when that exacerbation of tension results in the commencement of military operations? And here, sir, one of the honorable members referred to, I think it was my friend, my distinguished friend, Shri Manish Tiwari ji, evacuation operations that have been carried out from 1960, 61 onwards. Certainly. One of the honorable members who's not here referred to this being a transportation exercise, not an evacuation exercise. I'd like to come back to that in a minute. वहीं से भी चर्चा शुरू कर सकते हैं. Sir, I want to say, based on 39 years experience that I've had in the previous profession, that no matter what the average perception of the lethargy in a bureaucracy is, or a political system, come a crisis and everybody springs into this thing. And this was an operation which the Honorable Prime Minister personally took meetings on, which my friend, the External Affairs Minister, my distinguished colleague, personally took charge on. I was in Guwahati on the 28th doing a Gati Shakti mission event for the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, when I got a telephone call late in the evening saying, "Ab kal raat ko jaiye, kal jaiye." And then all of us gathered, some of us flew out within hours. I believe that to detail the meticulous manner in which this was done. Look, I was a student of conflict situations. When some honorable members referred to that one life lost, I'm the first to say one life lost is one life too many. But if you're dealing with a situation, now let's look at numbers. The words are used lightly. Displaced personnel or refugees. Number of displaced, I think, are in the vicinity of 10 million, possibly, which includes internally displaced. Number of refugees, perhaps 4 to 5 million. Sir, we were agonizing and we were worried about the welfare of each one of our citizens through Prime Minister's involvement in Delhi, through the External Affairs Minister being in touch with all of them. But look at the overall numbers. I remember one particular evening in Budapest, when I got a call from the External Affairs Minister, said that, this front we thought was well managed because we had 1,200 people on the ground in hotels, in dormitories. Suddenly 1,700 came because there was clogging at the borders of Romania and Poland, and some people were just being pushed down. 1,700 people arrive in one place. We managed. We increased the number of flights from 4 to 7 to 11 in a day. Why and how did that become possible? It is, बहुत आसान होता है राजनीतिक रोटियां सेकने, कोई एक सोशल मीडिया क्लिप कर रहा. I can share with you hundreds of thousands of messages from grateful students and their parents, which was sent that their evacuation, and I use the word evacuation, was being facilitated. A lot of people were provided buses. That last operation which took place in those cities which are under siege, buses were arranged from neighboring countries. Buses were arranged inside. How is this a transportation arrangement? And the Honorable Prime Minister was working the telephone lines. I know, and I don't need to go into the details. I'm sure this is a part of the geopolitics which the Honorable External Affairs Minister will respond to. He was speaking to the heads of state and government, not only in the Russian Federation, not only in the Ukraine, but all the others. But ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you, we had barely recovered from COVID, and we are in a warlike situation. And in a warlike situation, the two disputants who are waging war, and I don't want to go into whose fault it is, whether our vote, etc. It's so easy to talk about votes. I've had some experience. The making of foreign and security policy has to be based on tangible national interest, which the government and all the honorable members have said, it is the government which will determine that, rather than easy temptation to episodic social media tweets. Sir, very often in those difficult times, even when you were able to negotiate safe passage from one of the countries involved, only to find that the other party had maybe other military and objectives which they had to look at. So the fact that out of about 22,500, 400 left as a result of the advisories, another 18,500 was successfully evacuated, I think is not a small achievement. And as if you look at the history of evacuation operations, I am familiar with Operation Safe Homecoming, Operation Rahat in 2015, Yemen crisis, Operation Maitri, Nepal earthquake, evacuation from Brussels, Operation Devi Shakti, Operation Ganga Sar. In my humble submission, with 39 years of experience in that field, will rank as one of the most well-coordinated and successful humanitarian evacuation missions undertaken by any country anywhere. I'm not just talking about India. Sir, we faced some very interesting situations. That evening when the Honorable Prime Minister guided us, he said clearly that this is a humanitarian evacuation mission. When you say humanitarian evacuation, you don't stand by technicalities. You do not follow the literal letter of what is written. I remember I was traveling back in a car from the Ukraine border with the person who used to be our ambassador in Budapest. He had been sent back. And I got a telephone call saying that one of the airlines had been fined because they were bringing in Nepali or some other nationals of neighboring countries. We worked the lines. Within minutes it was sorted out. Whole of a government approach. Because we not only brought back, thanks to the clear visionary guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, nationals of our neighboring country, we also brought back nationals from other developing countries in further continents.
Thank you.
Sir, before I conclude, I also want to say, sir, that this gives me an opportunity because you said, sir, that the advisories were lacking in clarity and direction. I have tried to place that in perspective, and how I say the advisories were both focused and clear, but also that there was certain uncertainty has been unleashed on account of the disruption in supply lines, which is going to happen depending on the duration and the cost that the military operations take. That disruption could get further widened. But let me tell you what has happened to oil and gas prices meanwhile, sir. Because that is something on which many of us tend to comment without looking at the global picture and what this military operation has done. Sir, at the height of COVID, and I talk about March 2020, gas prices were $19.56 a barrel. They went up in 2021 to $60 to $80. On 24th February, when the military action took place, suddenly they shot up to $92, then up to 124, went up to 130. Sir, are we the only country affected by this? I have with me here, sir, and I can give you the same on gas prices. We have raised the price of petrol by, I think, 9 rupees over 12 or 13 days when the international price has shot up. Now, I have something, sir. Gasoline at the pump, comparison between April 21 and March 22, in USA, the increase percentage is 51%. In Canada, 52%. In Germany, 55%. UK, 55%. France, 50%. Spain, 58%. Sri Lanka, 55%. India, sir, 5%.
Yes,
our percentage increase is 1/10 of what it is elsewhere.
No.
Similarly, I could do for gas, sir. Sir, I thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to participate in this discussion on Rule 193. I think a lot of very valuable issues have been raised. I'm sure my other colleagues, when they participate, and particularly the External Affairs Minister, he will be able to respond to some of these issues on why and with what degree of success we have been able to navigate through this difficult situation, and that navigation will continue with a degree of confidence because the Prime Minister's roadmap that had been laid out is both clearly with a clear direction, and it will be able to avoid the pitfalls which some of the other countries are getting into because of the soundness of our policy. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sri Pinaki Mishra.
Chairperson.